Hmm. But
Is this between us?
at least I noticed this time.
This is just between us with your host, Camo.
All right, how's it going, everybody? My name is Chris, and this is Just Between Us, a very, very, very professional show. And joining me tonight is my co-host from the Miller Talk podcast, Austin. How are you doing?
I'm good. Hello, everyone.
I had to restart it because I let the whole intro play and then realized it was still muted. one of these days I'll remember that there's 4 buttons, not 3. Anyway, how's your day, Austin? I didn't.
I mean, we're still getting over this snowstorm, but
Yeah, are you able to go places now at least?
yeah,
Well,
worked yesterday and today, so
that's a good start. Did it ever come to the fruition that it was supposed to?
not really.
Was it ever a
It was still pretty
snowpocalypse?
bad, but it wasn't like they said.
Seems to always be the case, huh? For whatever
Not
reason.
always, but sometimes.
It seems more lately than any time before, where the news just, like, every single time there is a storm, they amp it up like it's going to be the worst thing to ever happen to mankind, and then usually it's a pretty typical storm. But it does seem to have a psychological effect on people too, because people will talk about it as if it was something more than it actually was. Typically, that's been my experience anyway. That's anecdotal, but what isn't, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's better to be prepared than left sorry, thinking, oh, it was just going to be 3 inches of snow. Then you still plan on going to work. You
Yeah.
still, you don't salt any roads, you don't do anything like that, but you plan for 13 inches of snow, and it only turns out to be 3. Doing pretty good.
Yeah, I suppose so. Better to over prepare than under, that's for sure. So, to start off tonight, we have a update on the Preddy story. As much as I really hate to continue this this story, it is relevant. There is yet another video that has come out. This time, now this is not, supposedly, this is not the same day that the shooting took place. This is a few days prior. I saw one that said it was the day before. I saw one that said it was up to 11 days before. I wasn't able to verify. So we'll have to find out. January 13th is what it says on the video that I have. Pretty is seen wearing basically the same clothing he was the day that he died, which I find interesting. It kind of seems like the exact same environment and everything, but I don't know. But it goes to kind of what we saw, because we noticed, of course, the video that is shared was just the altercation. And that is what the left has been doing this whole time. Every time one of these things happens, they show just the point that the ICE officer responds to whatever the agitator is doing, which of course puts them in the worst light. When we watched the fullest video that we could find from that day, we find out that no, Pretty did put his hands on the officers, and they were agitating the officers before the ICE officer went and pushed them back to the sidewalk, likely telling them to get back on the sidewalk as they're supposed to. He was trying to direct traffic and all of these things. But let's watch this new video here, which kind of goes to, what's that?
Didn't say anything.
Oh, that sounded exactly like you. It must have been this video, but let me pull it up on screen. It perhaps goes to Pretty's state of mind here.
This is a moment the news movement filmed on January 13th in Minneapolis, showing a man who appears to be Alex Preddy interacting with federal immigration agents 11 days before Border Patrol shot and killed him. Our footage was analyzed by the BBC, whose facial recognition technology confirmed his identity to a 97% degree of accuracy.
And there are 2 angles of this.
On the morning of
video.
January 13th, our team received a tip that federal agents were blocking a street at the corner of East 36 and Park Avenue in Minneapolis. We arrived around 10:15 a.m. We saw observers shouting at the agents as they walked back to their vehicles. When they started driving away, the man kicked their taillight. An agent then got out of the vehicle, grabbed him, and pushed him to the ground.
You can see his gun in this as well, which it's kind of amazing he wasn't shot here.
During the altercation,
because he's
agents
fighting with
fired tear
agents.
gas and pepper balls into the crowd.
What's weird is they let him
continued
go.
to hold the man down before they retreat, and he walks away.
Had they actually arrested him and charged him, it might have saved his life.
The man in our footage is wearing a similar outfit to what Preddy was wearing on the day he was killed. What appears to be a gun is also visible above his waistband.
The video comes from TNM, by the way, which is the news movement, I think. I think he says here at the end of the video. You can see his
Here,
gun
he continues to stand at
on
the
his
scene.
back here, right here.
On the day he was killed, the Department of Homeland Security claims Preddy, a 37-year-old ICU nurse, approached officers holding a handgun. That claim has been contradicted by analysis of bystander videos from multiple
I
news
don't think anyone
investigations,
claimed he was holding the gun.
which concluded that Preddy was holding a phone, not a gun, when he was pinned to the street.
I heard some people say he was holding a gun.
Did you? I saw some contradiction as to whether he was when he was finally shot, but certainly not when they first approached him.
Shortly after the altercation we
Clearly
filmed
mentally
here on
stable
January
individuals.
13th, federal agents drove away. Soon after that, we left the scene.
Yeah, the news movement. That's who originally shot the video, apparently. Whether or not that's relevant, I guess, is up to anybody else. But you know, it wasn't that day, so it's not like it directly applies, but it does give you an idea as to, first of all, did these agents that were dealing with him that day, had they had previous run-ins with him? Were they familiar with him specifically? It goes to, he clearly was trying to instigate fights with ICE. They were driving away in that scene, and he chases after the vehicle and kicks the taillight out. It also goes to what these agents are going through every day in Minneapolis. Like we've mentioned many times, and so have many other people, they're operating in all 50 states. This is only happening in Minneapolis, which leads you to believe it's not ICE that's the problem. It's not Border Patrol. It's not DHS that's the problem. It's the agitators in Minneapolis that are the problem.
Yeah. Even after, so they pick him up, they put him on the ground, then they decide to retreat. Even after that, you still see him like go back into the crowd a little bit and then come back out and start like yelling and pointing at him more.
Yeah, like he wants to chase after him.
Yeah, like he's just begging, why didn't you arrest me?
It's just one of those
While
things,
he was on
man,
the ground,
like,
he was just, help me, help me.
if you just weren't there interfering with stuff, you would have no risk of getting hurt. It really seems that simple. And again, like, you know, I've been called a bootlicker 1,000 times over the last week. That's fine. Call me whatever you want. But it's not defending the state when the state is enacting our will. The ICE agents are literally doing what we hired them to do. They aren't going around roughing up random people. They're going around arresting illegals. And yes, that includes people that have not committed a crime other than being here illegally. There's also a claim, I want to play another video here by a leftist, because this is a frequent claim that I'm hearing from the left, because they're losing the argument on ICE pulling out completely. And so they're trying to reframe it now that ICE is doing something wrong by going after asylees, not just illegal immigrants. but there's obviously a problem with that narrative. So this woman is, she claims to be the daughter of immigrants herself. I'll let her tell it though. I wonder if I can set a macro to make it transition this all at once so I don't have to turn it on for you and the audience separately. Anyway.
I am a child of immigrant parents. I am the product of what happens when two people leave everything that they know in hopes to find a better life for their entire family. There is not a single day that I have ever forgotten what my parents have sacrificed and what they have gone through to gift me the life that I get to live today. If you have watched any of my videos, my life is just a small example of how drastically your life can change being an immigrant in this country. The way that I get to live my life today and the freedom that I have to get to dream is the reason why people like my parents do whatever it takes to live in our country. Before you go on and say, Maymay, what are you doing talking about a topic like this? The truth is, I do not need to be a politician to know what is right and what is wrong when it comes down to how humans should be treated. It is not a hot take or a controversial belief that children should not be handcuffed. They should not be detained. And humans should not be locked up for...
Okay, so again, with the children should... First of all, they're not handcuffed. That's an absolute lie. Second,
they don't make children handcuffs.
Should not be detained. So I should just, if there's a 5-year-old in a house where they arrested illegals, they should just leave the 5-year-old. Just leave them.
Mm-hmm.
They
or
literally.
If a child commits a murder, we should just hold his hand into the
Yeah.
Sometimes children commit crimes, so yes, sometimes we will have to arrest children.
Yeah.
Overall, but I know what she's talking about specifically.
And yeah, but even with this, do you want the families separated or do you want them deported together? Because if you want them deported together, the children have to go with the parents who have been detained. Even if you want them separated now, which would be a complete 180 from why we got to where we are, because it was the left screaming in the first place that got us to keeping them together and deporting them as families. Even if we do a 180 on that, ICE still has to detain children every now and then when their parents abandon them, as the case is with this 5-year-old, whose father was targeted by ICE and ran and just left his 5-year-old with ICE. Because obviously, when the Nazi Gestapo come around and you know that they just rape, murder, and pillage anybody they see, you leave your children with them. Obviously. I mean, it's so ridiculous. Anyway.
Days in cages without any food or water, no matter legal.
Also not true. We didn't even make it 3 more seconds.
That is so unverifiably untrue.
No, it is verifiably untrue.
Yes, I can't speak today, guys. Chris knows we've been on for...
Yeah, he's been on here for a while.
Sitting here for 2 hours together while he's been doing all this stuff, so I can't speak much.
Yeah, it's an absolute lie. There is nobody that is not getting food or water.
Status or not, people deserve to have basic human rights. And the
define basic human rights. Go.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line is all people should be treated with dignity and respect. If you
define dignity and respect, does that include child rapists and murderers?
And respect to keep the child safe while his criminal father left him?
I would think so.
It seems very respectable.
Yeah. Seems like it.
Is sending them home to where they belong.
You know what the Nazis would have done with a 5-year-old if they found a foreign soldier with his son and the foreign soldier ran and abandoned his son? They would have shot him because they didn't want to have to deal with taking care of him. Right? What's one more death in a war of casualties? This idea that it's even remotely comparable is just, it's tiresome at this point.
You have seen any of the videos of these families being ripped apart or their screams of agony, and that does...
Yes, they scream, so we should just not enforce the law.
Yeah. When a brown child starts crying, you just give them anything they want and ask for.
You just sign your country over to them. Yeah. You just sign the
Mhm.
country right over to them if they start screaming.
Not draw any type of empathy or compassion from you guys, I highly encourage you to think about the fact that no one gets to choose where they are born. The place that you were born is literally up to
Your
chance. So
parents get to
before you decide to
choose.
judge someone else for being a criminal, to them, these are acts of survival. I have made it abundantly clear of who I am and what I stand for, and yes, I get it. I'm just a girl that makes videos on the internet, but I would be damned if I
Yeah,
didn't
stick to
use the
that.
platform that you all gave me to not speak up about what is going on right now. If you do not
No,
like
you
that I do
definitely
not
could.
support what ICE is doing, then I highly recommend you leave, because all of my videos and the entire identity of who I am comes from being an immigrant child. The bottom line is,
does
if
it?
you have gained anything from my videos, or if you have learned anything, I hope it is treating people with compassion and kindness.
Okay, apparently it wasn't that video.
You're getting deported. Congratulations.
Surprise. Deportation.
Chris with a beard.
All right. I tolerate it most of the time. I am not this fucking guy. Apparently that wasn't the video I was looking for. Hopefully this one is. Otherwise I didn't save it like I thought I did. Where they're talking about asylees. But to address what she said there at the end, again, I've said this before. Of course I have compassion. Of course I have empathy. Of course I would do it myself if I was fucking poor in Colombia. That doesn't mean that I would act like I have a right to be here if I got caught.
Yeah. It is compassionate and empathetic to jail the criminal or give the criminal their punishment. That is actually, you don't, when your child messes up and gets into trouble, you're going to be mad at them, but you're going to have to punish them. And you don't punish them because you hate them.
No.
You don't pull them into the back room and spank them because you just hate them. It's because a corrective action is needed and you love them and you want them to be better.
Yep.
So this is your punishment, and you either accept it like a grown adult, or you whine and cry and get yourself in more trouble. Which one do you want?
Yeah, and again, just because I have empathy, just because, I empathize with their plight, I understand why they're doing it, doesn't mean we don't enforce our laws. And since when is sending somebody home for free, mind you, or not free, but at our expense, since when is that bad in any way, shape, or form? We could throw them in jail. We could make it a crime to be in this country illegally. And you have to spend 10 years in jail if you're caught. That would stop the illegals immediately. They would all self-deport tomorrow. The vast majority would. They don't want to risk 10 years in jail. That's what we should do, honestly, is just make it a crime and then make the self-deportation, just sweeten the pot a little more on that. But we don't. We just send them home.
Mm-hmm. They're all so mad because Trump is dad. And what we've had for a long time is like a step parent or mom or an aunt or something watching the kids. And now dad has come home and dad can actually enforce the law.
Yep.
The mom does a good job or the step parent does a good job, but dad can actually enforce the law. And so Trump is dad. And he's actually, the chickens are coming home to roost and they don't like that.
No, they do not. Is your internet acting up or is that my side?
Must be you.
All right, give me just a second here. Let me try and fix it. Make sure it didn't kick you down to. No, you're on high priority. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And all of this just we're quickly getting to the point where call it whatever you want. I don't care. We're enforcing the law. And I don't want to get to that point because I think that there are, consequences to that. But that's really like you're leaving us no option here but to just not care anymore and just enforce the law. And who gives a damn what leftists have to say about it? And in a sense,
we give them an inch. But like, we can't stop for a second. We can't just be like, oh, this is too much, because you give them that foothold again. So it's not going to be good. We have to continue these deportations, and they actually need to be ramped up. We need to get going. And yes, there's going to be a lot of pushback. There's going to be a lot of all these riots and protests and stuff, but you just have to keep soldiering on, man.
Yeah. I mean, they're gonna do this no matter what. Whether we stop deportations, whether we increase deportations, whether we keep them exactly the same, they're gonna do it no matter what.
They're not even protesting like the deportations. They're not really protesting ICE. They're protesting Trump. They don't like Trump.
Yeah, they're protesting the way it's being done.
In order to get, all they want to do is slow him down. This is why we have all the suits and constantly in court and constantly challenging everything he does.
Yep.
They don't even care if they're right or he's wrong. They just want to slow it down for a little bit. So they get out there and they literally stand in the way of the progress that ICE is making.
Yeah, 100%. And I've literally said it a million times, and I still, here we are doing it again. I succumb to it over and over again like everybody else, but it's worth repeating every time. This is the point right here. What are we sitting here discussing? We're not discussing solutions. We're not discussing what the next step is. We're sitting here discussing what the leftists are doing. That's what they want. It's nothing but distraction and slowing them down, like you said. I'm going to play this video, but before that, I want to ask you, and I don't want you to answer right now. I want you to think about it, and we'll come back to it after the video. What should we do in Minnesota based on everything that's going on right now? Should we stop? Should we increase? Should we send in National Guard? What solutions are there? Because this is obviously just going to keep happening until there's a change of some sort, whether that's leftists backing off or the Trump administration going full Gestapo or ICE backing off. One of the three is kind of the thing. So think about it for a few minutes. Let's watch this video.
I just think it's hilarious because who the fuck are you to tell somebody else that they can't live here?
An American.
Who the fuck, because you were born here?
Yep,
obviously you
why.
never learned how to check your privilege, because you're lucky that you were born in a country like this. And other people just want to come here.
You're damn right I am. Austin, have you checked your privilege today?
No.
Yeah, no. I never will. Last I checked, I grew up poor as shit. Last I checked, I deal with this same bullshit every single day that everybody else in America does. There's no fucking privilege. Now, I am privileged to live in this country, as is every American, but that doesn't mean we just fucking hand it over. And what gives us the right is the fact that our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents built this fucking place. They fought wars for this fucking place. They fought each other to make this a better place. That's what gives us the fucking right.
Here and live a prosperous life. And they're not all criminals and nasty bad people. Who the fuck are you to tell somebody else, I'm better than you? I deserve a nice life, you don't.
Yeah,
who the fuck are you to say that? You're disgusting. You're an elitist asshole, And you deserve to be deported if you genuinely believe that all these deportations are for the best. Like, fuck you, honestly. Fuck you.
You know what? Fuck you too,
I'm
bud.
moving into his house tomorrow, and I'm just gonna live there.
I will deport him if he tries to kick you out. Good?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah. You're gonna
Sounds
go
like
to
a plan.
jail if you kick me out of your house.
Yeah. Why is it always incumbent on us to help them and not incumbent on them to fix their own fucking countries?
Or at least fix yourself before you come here, and don't bring whatever the fuck broke your country to this country.
No shit. I just can't stand this. What do you even call that? Like, you're so fucking misled to get to this position. And like filled with some sort of guilt that you have no... Americans should be the least guilty people on the planet. We provide the best future. We actually build for our future generations, something that all of these other fucking nations haven't even bothered to do. We've provided more for the rest of the fucking world than any other nation on the planet combined. We let more more legal immigrants into our country every single year than everywhere else on the planet combined, and we don't even do it by meritocracy anymore. We tend to do it by whoever's got the saddest fucking story. The fuck do we have to be guilty for? The only thing I'm guilty of is that we didn't fucking take over any more countries and make it even greater nation. Free some more people.
I bet I could put this guy in a pretzel in 10 seconds.
I'll give it 2.
If he decides to resist. I'm recommending you don't resist.
It's probably the best. Probably for the best. Apparently I didn't save the video about the asylees, or I missed it with the other chick. The claim though was, we never have criminalized asylees before, which is asylum seekers. Yeah, because no administration before the Biden administration allowed illegal immigrants to falsely claim asylum, knowing that they had absolutely no legitimate right to do so, knowing that there was no legal basis to do so, and then just stay in the country until their asylum claim was rejected. There's absolutely no reason we have to tolerate it. The Biden administration just made that up out of thin air. We can go back to following the law. It's not a crime to do so. It's not authoritarian to do so, and it's not wrong to do so. And that's part of the problem, is these people are so convinced that there's some sort of existent right, or that there is some sort of authoritarian action that Trump is implementing, rather than just following the law, which hasn't been followed for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
He has not made any new laws.
And they are not going beyond the
process.
law.
It's the same Tom Homan that was given awards under Obama.
Yep.
It's the same thing.
I do want to point out,
now they're just resisting it. They're not being overly cruel. They're just doing their job. And when you resist arrest, now they have to do their job harder.
do it harder. I just want to point out, a lot of conservatives have been saying, Obama deported more and Bill Clinton deported more. Nobody said anything. And it is true that, leftists didn't say anything in those situations. The kids in cages things at the end of Obama, that did.
I just think it.
That did come up at the end, but they did not actually deport more. And that is worth noting. They deported plenty, and there was no complaint, but they didn't deport more.
The real number under Obama was only 350,000.
Yeah, it was something like that.
or
It was
what was
pitifully
actually
low.
deported.
And that was because, one, they claimed a lot of deportations that didn't actually happen, but then also they let in a net positive. So there was more
Yeah.
people that came in than there were actually deported. So even though the deportation numbers were on paper pretty high, the actual number was very, very low.
Mhm.
And the same thing was true under Clinton, too. They've been allowing this to happen for a very long time.
Yeah. And
But
like I told you from the stories I heard from the inmates at the
Mhm.
immigration facility I worked at, uh, you know, they were they were literally just put on a bus, taken to El Paso, and told to get off that bus onto another bus. No one held their hand. They weren't handcuffed. They could step foot off that bus and literally just walk the opposite direction, and no one was going to stop them.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely insane. Um, uh, we got to watch an even more infuriating video in a minute. But another video we're going to watch here in a few. Steven Crowder did what I think is probably the best 2 minutes of video that I have seen in a long time. He very clearly and blatantly illustrated how easy it is for the media to manipulate stories based on what period of time they show or what section of video they show. By starting the video here instead of here, you can entirely change the narrative. And they demonstrated that in such a simple and beautiful way that it's amazing to me that it wasn't done sooner. Now, it's not a new concept. We've all recognized that the media has been doing this for a while, but this demonstration, at least for me, it was a very it was one of those things you watch and it's like, why has this not been repeated over and over and over on the right for the last 10 years? Like, we'll get to that in a second. But before we do, let's go back to the question I asked you. What should we be doing about Minneapolis?
We should make an example of them.
In what way?
Really, we should send in, I don't know, a couple hundred Marines and a couple thousand guardsmen and federalize the National Guard in Minnesota. And just keep going until the riots stop and ICE can freely do their job, whatever that means, really. But
So just more or less just keep adding police, National Guard, whoever it takes until the riots are forced down, basically.
And
Okay.
arrest Tim Walz. Go into his house like they did Maduro. Just go into his house in the middle of the night, bring him out in his underwear, and
I wouldn't hate to see it. Probably not
Yeah.
a great thing, but I wouldn't hate to see it. It's hard for me to say that that's not what we should do. In a fair world, that is exactly what we should do. It's not going to be great for perspective. There's no doubt about that. But again, it doesn't matter what we do, right? It's not going to be great for perspective because the left controls the media. They always have. They have less control than they've ever had over it, but they still do. I mean, we still see the left rushing to 4 days after it was shown that 5-year-old was not arrested, his dad abandoned him, and the media was still writing stories with headlines suggesting that ICE had arrested a 5-year-old. But the reason I ask is because there's a solution that I saw today that I think is probably the best one that I've seen so far. Let me see here. I don't think it was video. I think it was text. Let me see if I have it. Okay, this is this guy's suggestion. Hold on one second. Well, this is a good perspective here. So this is a picture of a Reddit post, and it says, if an ICE agent is unreasonably killing an innocent man in front of me, do I have the right to shoot the ICE agent as an act of defense for the innocent? Well, first of all, yes, you would legally have the right, probably. I'm not a lawyer. That's not legal advice. Yada, yada. But your perception of whether or not it is justified is irrelevant. The question is whether it is legitimately justified or legally justified or not that matters. And aside from that, if you were to shoot an ICE agent because they were shooting somebody that was armed, like Pretty, for example, you're going to get shot by 30 other ICE agents. And they're going to be legally justified in doing so, even if that ICE agent was in the wrong. So how about you stop playing fucking cop? Anyway, the original post said individuals are now seeking legal advice on Reddit, asking if they have the right to shoot ICE agents who, in their opinion, have killed an innocent person. Words I never thought I would have to write on this platform. To which this person responded, no assassination attempts on Biden, none on Kamala, none on AOC, no assassination attempts on any other prominent voice on the political left. No violence from the pro-Israel crowds, no arrests on the pro-Israel side, no calls for death or murder of those who oppose the pro-Israeli side. Which is not necessarily explicitly right-wing, because there's a lot of anti-Israel right-wingers too. Like, that's sort of the Israel thing is sort of there's a segment of both sides that are pro-Israel, and there's a segment of both sides that are anti. And probably the vast majority of us that could care less one way or another. Anyway, those who oppose gender ideology do not call for the death of those who disagree with them. Those who oppose movements like BLM did not call for the death of those who took part in the BLM riots. Social media is not flooded with videos from those on the right celebrating the deaths of anybody on the left or wishing harm upon them. It's not a both sides issue. An excellent point. Now, what this person said in response is not necessarily relevant to either of those. I just read them because they were both good points. But it is to what we should do about Minneapolis. He says, you're right. We have put agents in a lose-lose situation. My suggestion, remove all federal government officials from the state of Minnesota. Remove all federal funding from the state of Minnesota. No subsidies, no loans, nothing. The country will stay out of your business. You stay out of ours. This, I think, could be a good solution. I'm not in favor of pulling ICE out. I've floated the idea of maybe we pull them back for a little bit and then just kind of quietly and without celebration, bring them back in to start arresting people again once everybody's gone home. That is one option. What you said is another option, and probably the most likely option. But this isn't a terrible idea either. Okay, fine. You don't want to enforce federal law. You don't want the federal government. Fine. But you don't get anything from us either. You don't get anything from the rest of the states if you're going to be a liability to the rest of the states. Because by harboring illegal aliens and criminals, you're a liability to the rest of the states. By causing all of this political instability, remember, all this stuff is going on in one city in the country, and the entire country is divided over it. Just let them be. Just pull everything out. Every bit of federal funding, every bit of federal aid, every federal government employee of any type from big to small, top to bottom, pull them out. And see how long they like just being Minnesota. See how long they like taking care of these illegals when it's solely on them to do it. They don't mind doing it right now because it's us, the federal government, the rest of the states that are paying for it. Minnesotans aren't paying for it directly. I mean, they are, but they're not footing the majority of the bill. The federal government is. So just stop. If they want to live this way, then they can pay to live this way. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think if you cut their funding, because you know the way they love to say, like, oh, there is no illegals on Medicare or getting SNAP or whatever. And that's because what they're doing is they're taking the federal funds that are supposed to be for Medicaid and SNAP, and they're using, they're allocating it to a different place in order to use their state funds that they've collected for Medicaid and SNAP in order to fund the illegals.
Yeah, that's one of many ways that they're going about it.
So you cut the federal funding. Now they're in a spot where they have to decide what they're going to do with that extra money that was not being used correctly.
Yeah. So do you think it would work?
It would definitely hurt them,
Do you think it would cause them to
get the rioting to stop and the protests to stop? But it would definitely put it would put Tim Walz and Jacob Frey into some weird spots. And
so here's the thing. You're probably right. The rioting won't stop. What it'll do is it'll move to another state where ICE is still at, right? But if this is done everywhere that they do riot until it stops, unless a state wants to come down on them, which is what should be happening. Mm-hmm. Minnesota should be coming down on these rioters and not forcing the federal government to do it. The federal government should only have to get involved in the worst case scenario. Regardless, if this continues, any state that allows it, you just keep holding the funds, the people of the state might finally come down on them. Yeah. They might finally have enough of it because they're not going to be able to afford it.
If they end up having to cut, that they'll probably do it silently if they have to. Mm-hmm. But if they have to cut the money that they were giving to illegals for those things, then the illegals will be forced to move somewhere else. Or maybe that self-deportation sounds really good all of a sudden. But if they do it the other way, where they actually care about the illegals more than their own constituents, citizens, then that would cause the people to rise up against them when their SNAP or whatever gets cut off all of a sudden.
Right.
But then they find out an illegal still has theirs.
It really is an incredible phenomenon that leftists will get out and riot in the streets over cutting off kids' genitals. They'll get out and riot over the streets over their 12-year-old being allowed to have an abortion. And they'll get out and riot in the streets over illegals, many of whom are criminals. We'll go through some of the numbers here in a minute when we go through this Robert Reich video. But they won't get out and riot in the streets over veterans. They won't get out and riot in the street over American children, over anything that is actually within their control and that actually affects Americans and American kids and American elderly and adults and veterans and all, name the category. Why? I can't even begin to understand how you show up to a cutting kids' genitals off riot, a ICE riot, and a BLM riot and not go, I've never rioted for anything that actually affects my children before. Why? I don't know. I can't fathom why you'd riot in the first place either.
This interesting thing. So places like California and Illinois, they're either sanctuary states or they have sanctuary cities within them.
Okay.
For illegal aliens. So technically, and we have obviously seen, they will not enforce federal law. So it's come to this it's an interesting constitutional argument. Do the states, technically have to help federal law enforcement in enforcing a law? That, then is it an insurrection when they are actively, openly calling for constituents and citizens to resist the federal government's enforcement of federal laws? And if they do, they're almost technically seceding. They're saying we will not, have anything to do with the federal government. And if you're going to secede, then you're saying that you don't need us. So you will not get any help from us whatsoever.
Yeah. Nor should you if you're going to secede.
Mm-hmm. So are they allowed to be a sanctuary city or state? Because Oklahoma is technically a Second Amendment sanctuary state. We have said openly through a bill that Governor Kevin Stitt signed that says if the federal government comes to Oklahoma to enforce gun laws that we don't like or we think is contrary to the Constitution, we will not, aid federal agents in doing this. And I'm like, okay, that sounds cool to me, but are they allowed to do that?
Yes.
And it's obviously two different cases because we've got the federal government enforcing a law that is just and right, in my opinion, versus the federal government enforcing a law that would not be just and right.
It'd be blatantly unconstitutional as well, which I think is probably the best argument. Whereas this is perfectly in line with the Constitution. But I can answer that for you. The state would be well within their rights to do that. They're under no obligation to help the federal government with anything. So your state can absolutely choose not to enforce any federal law they want to, basically. They cannot interfere with federal law. So this sanctuary city stuff that's been going on, as much as I don't like it, the states do have a right to do that. They don't have to enforce federal immigration law. They're not required to by the Constitution. They can't interfere with ICE enforcing immigration law, though, which is why you haven't seen Governor Walz, try to stop ICE in any way, because he can't. Not without being a traitor. So, right or wrong, they absolutely can do it. And again, I don't like it. I don't like it with the ICE thing, but it is the state's right to do it. And so fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
so it would be just fine if they said, hey, you call for our help, we're not going to help you.
The federal
but
government?
Doing things like knowingly having illegal immigrants housed in your prison system and not turning them over to ICE like you're supposed to. Are they allowed to do that?
They can still do that. So they don't have to turn them over. Then they're not. That's part of it, the problem, because they will release these people back onto the street instead of turn them over to ICE. So then ICE has to chase them down in the street. What they're not allowed to do would be actively hide people from the federal government.
Like hiding them in a prison?
Yeah. They can't block the federal government from coming in. And they can't. So, like, if Walz would have deployed the National Guard to defend against ICE like he claimed he was going to, in reality, he deployed the National Guard to defend ICE against the rioters. But, of course, no leftist pointed that little hypocrisy out. But that would have been illegal. That would have been a crime for him to do, even as governor. But anything that is not a direct interference, anything where they are just not assisting, they don't have to assist the federal government in any way. They just cannot impede it in any way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, they have a lot of leeway because our states are supposed to be sovereign, right? Federal law does trump it, but it's supposed to be limited and not. And ironically, see, that's the other thing about being called a bootlicker that really annoys me, because as a limited government person, I don't want a big, powerful federal government. This is one of the legitimate purviews of the federal government, though. All of this other crap is not. But Trump dealing with foreign leaders, foreign trade, tariffs, all that, that's legitimate. The military, that's legitimate. And immigration enforcement, that's legitimate. Almost everything else is supposed to be done at the state level. Oh, the other thing they can't do is like actively aid illegals coming in. So one might be able to make a case that they are doing that by providing housing, by providing state funds through SNAP and other things to illegals. And somebody should try to make that case, frankly. But all right, so let's take a look at this video from Steven Crowder that demonstrates how the media can very easily manipulate your opinion on a given scenario with just the slightest, editing. Oh, audio would help.
Just a misconception of what actually transpired. And that's what's been happening here with Renee Good, with Alex Preddy. Let me show you, okay? Right now, I will show you a conflict that has taken place in this office. And you tell me who's the aggressor, who's the victim.
No, don't. How's that feel? Ow. You deserve that. How's that feel? Cut it out.
So that'd be comparable to the first clip that you guys may have seen where you go, this is a public execution. That seems pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
Right? Good guy, bad guy. Now let me just rewind it a few seconds, a part you didn't see. Does this change it?
Ow. How does that feel? Hey! Ow! No, don't. How's that feel? Ow! You deserve that. How's that feel? Cut it out.
Oh, well, now that clearly seems pretty cut and dry. We thought that I was the aggressor. Turns out that Toolman was the aggressor, and it was even a callback with how's that feel, where actually, in that case, it's completely justified. Only, well, hold on a second. What if I rewind it another few seconds, and can you tell who the aggressor and the victim is? Does the context change something?
Tim, I'm going to murder you by putting this knife in your face. Not if I stab you with this gun. Ow! How does that feel? Hey! Ow! No, don't. How's that feel? Ow! You deserve that. How's that feel? Cut it out!
And see, even in context, none of this is real. So keep that in mind next time you pass judgment on a clip.
Take that, you passive bystander!
And to be clear, what you saw at the end of that one is in context. There was no justification.
I listened to that episode and didn't watch it, so I just saw that for the first time.
A lot better when you watch it, huh?
Yeah.
Shout out to Steven Crowder. He's on Rumble. Go watch him. One of the best.
Love his show.
Political shows out there. Probably one of the funniest late night shows.
I'm so glad you
in existence.
told me about him, because I had heard of him before, but I didn't know he did a show. So I'm glad you told me.
Yeah. And there's a lot of controversy over him and stuff. I don't want to get into that. There's reasons to like him. There's reasons to dislike him. But there's no question it's one of the funniest late night shows, political shows that there is. And again, like it or not, like he has stuck to his principles in the past. Daily Wire offered him like $70 million when he left the Blaze, and he didn't take it because it would have required them to go back on YouTube and stuff. And they are, partially on YouTube, but they stream exclusively to Rumble, primarily because of the way that YouTube censors. And that is something that I firmly believe in. We stream to YouTube, but we've already been struck like 3 times, and we've been doing this for less than a month now. I shouldn't say struck 3 times. I've got 1 strike and 2 warnings in the last week, actually.
Yeah. I've already been kicked off TikTok twice.
Yeah, and
thanks, Alan.
We're not going to censor what we say for them. I'll stay on there as long as they'll let me. Might as well get the viewers that we can out of it. But we're not going to change what we say or do because of it, and that's something I firmly believe in, because it's incredible how far the Overton window has shifted and how much conservatives censor themselves compared to just 10 years ago even. And even just people online in general. How many people say grape or R word or what's the one that
other
they
F
use?
Word.
What's the one they use for the S word? I forget what the fill-in word is, but
I hate when they say unalive.
That, yes. It's just dumb. This whole shift in language thing that the left does anyway, it's meaningless. You know why we call people unhoused? Because homeless was rude. You know why we called them homeless? Because vagrant was rude and mean. And it's always going to develop a negative connotation if it's a negative thing. Yeah. Unhoused will just become the bigger insult 5 years from now, and you're going to have to change it again.
It's not supposed to be a good thing that you're homeless.
Yeah, it's a meaningless
Do I have
change.
Empathy and compassion for these people? I do. But you're still homeless. That's the reality.
It's the same thing with mentally ill. Formerly, the official term, the medical term, was mentally retarded. But that was mean. And before that, it was simple, and there was another one, too, which now you can say all you want. I can call somebody simple all I want. I forget what the other one is.
Idiot, stupid. These were all medical terms.
Idiot was one of them, yeah. Yep. But it's just a way to act like you're doing something without actually doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they love it, right? Because it's an excellent virtue signal. Oh, how dare you use that language? That's just so inappropriate. As if it makes any difference at all. All right. Since I'm already as fed up as I can get, let's go ahead and just add on the last one here before we move on. I apologize in advance. I apologize in advance for this.
Immigrants are good for the economy and our society. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. For centuries, immigration has been America's secret sauce.
First of all, he's already lied. You can take the first one as opinion, fine. We have not had immigration for centuries. We've had it for 1 century. Started under progressives, mass immigration. Obviously, there was, there's always levels of immigration, but mass immigration started with Ellis Island in the 1920s or whatever, under progressives.
For economic growth and prosperity. But for just as long, immigrants have been an easy scapegoat. One of the oldest, ugliest lies is to falsely smear immigrants as criminals.
We have a new category of crime. It's called migrant crime.
It's just not true. Crime is way down in America.
Yes, crime is way down. In part,
thanks for showing from 2002 to 2022.
Yeah, they left out a few years there.
If you would have showed 2010 to 2022, your argument looks a little different.
I did not just throw my
and
cigarette.
Guess what? crime is at the lowest it's ever been in history. It's always been on a steady decline.
Yeah, it's been on a steady decline for a long time. Kind of undermines the whole gun thing. Notice how they talk about how low crime is when it suits them, and then they talk about how high crime is when it suits them. Crime has dropped rapidly because it peaked under Joe Biden when we let all the illegals in. And it's also at the lowest point it's been. The murder rate's at the lowest point it's been in almost 100 years this year. The first year that we re-elected Donald Trump and sealed the border. It's almost like these things are related. That and illegal immigrants that are criminals, which, no, they're not all criminals, but the ones that are criminals, they're a lot more scared to commit crime right now because they don't want to be sent home. But this is a lie anyway. He's going to go on. Well,
anyone who says otherwise is fear-mongering.
No.
And whatever crime there is not being driven by immigration. Immigrants, regardless of citizenship status, are 60.
Notice he said immigrants, not illegal immigrants, or undocumented, as they would put it, immigrants. He said, regardless of immigration status, they are 60% less likely to be incarcerated than U.S.-born citizens, according to the National Bureau of Economic Research. That's an NGO. It's not a government research place like it sounds like. It's an NGO that is in favor of immigration almost certainly. But it's a lie. They come to that conclusion by combining legal and illegal immigrants. Now, keep in mind, we don't document immigration status when we arrest people. So there's a massive underreporting of illegal immigrant crime. Second, legal immigrants are one of the least likely groups to commit crime. That's great. Illegal immigrants are as high as 6 times more likely to commit a crime than the average American citizen. And it doesn't matter. Importing more criminals is importing more criminals, period. Doesn't matter if it's 1 out of 100 or 1 out of 1,000,000 or whatever. It's still more criminals.
50% less likely to be incarcerated for committing crimes than U.S.-born citizens. Maybe that's why border cities are among America's safest. Immigration of
also a blatant lie.
Bro's retarded.
There are people that live on the border that will tell you when somebody drops people or a package on your property, you just pretend like you don't see it so you don't get killed.
It's still so crazy to me that these people sit here, record these, probably watch it back at least once and go, yep, I'm putting that on the internet.
Oh, this guy Robert Reich is one of the worst. And I don't even know if this is Robert Reich. I assume it is. Inequality Media is what it says at the top. He's the one that posted it, and I'm pretty sure this is him. It looks like him. It looks like him with a ball sack for a chin anyway. But he's one of the worst. I mean, he just blatantly lies all day, every day, and he knows he's lying. He's in it for the cause, whatever the cause is, doesn't matter.
Opponents also claim immigrants are a drag on the economy and a drain on government resources.
They want the free stuff, and they're coming here to get it, and that's not right.
Rubbish. Quite the opposite. The major reason immigrants are coming to America is to build a better life for themselves and their families, contributing to the American economy. The long-term economic benefits of immigration outweigh any short-term costs. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office
admitting there's short-term costs.
Yeah, and it's also an abject lie. Now, you could say long term, yes. But that doesn't necessarily outweigh the short-term cost. Not to mention, Think of how much American society has changed since we started mass immigration 100 years ago.
Yep.
We read...
and you can't do it unlimitedly, even if there are benefits to it. This can't just be a policy of America that we just accept millions upon millions of people.
Yeah, if what he's saying was the case, why wouldn't we just let everybody in? Why wouldn't we just make the whole world America? Because it's obviously not true. We read on air some of Frost's Laws and Bylaws of American Etiquette from 1905 or whatever, 1890. I don't remember exactly what year. A while back. It was truly impressive to read by today's standards. I remember one of the things I highlighted was the fact that like women carried all of the power in every interaction, at least every interaction of strangers. There was an incredible level of etiquette and politeness in day-to-day activity, particularly with strangers. All that's gone. Can I say it's 100% immigration? No. But it probably has a lot to do with it. Those were American values and customs. Why did they disappear? Well, maybe it has to do with the fact that we imported nearly 50% non-Americans by this point in time.
Estimates that adding more immigrants as workers and consumers.
Real quick, then I'll let him say this stat. The National Congressional Budget Office is not nonpartisan.
Including undocumented immigrants, will grow America's economy by about $7 trillion over the next decade. And those immigrants would increase tax revenue by about $1 trillion, shrinking the deficit and helping pay for programs
they
we
pull
all
these numbers
benefit
out
from.
of thin air.
Immigrants
quite
of all
often.
states.
That's really not
we
even
program.
much either. It says because it's over the next decade. They put the big $1 trillion out
Yeah,
there.
that's $1 billion a year, or $100 billion a year. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not much at all.
$100 billion a year. No.
And that was 2024, so that was under Joe Biden that they said that. They've since said differently. And the Congressional Budget Office is run by whatever party runs the House. So, yeah. It's supposed to be nonpartisan, but of course it is. Everything is. Also, they claim that immigrants bring in a net value, you hear Democrats say this all the time, of about $150 billion a year in tax benefits that they don't get the benefits for. Well, first of all, they do get the benefits. Second of all, yeah, they bring in about $150 billion a year. The part that they leave out is that they cost American taxpayers more than $450 billion a year. 4 to 1. Almost 4 to 1. What they bring in. Which means if that $1 trillion is based on the $150 billion a year, which it sounds like it is, that's roughly the same over a decade, it'd be $1.5 trillion. That means in the same time, they'll bring in $1 trillion in tax revenue. They'll cost us $4 trillion in tax revenue. But they just leave that part out. You can't have somebody bring something in without taking something away. The question is what the difference is.
We all benefit from. Immigrants of all statuses pay more in taxes than they get in government benefits.
Blatant
Research
lie.
by the libertarian Cato Institute found that first-generation immigrants pay $1.38 in taxes for every $1 they receive in benefits. This is especially true for
The only way an
undocumented.
illegal immigrant can pay taxes is if they commit Social Security fraud.
Yep. And the vast majority
So
don't
if
pay
they're
taxes.
on average paying $1.38, then there's a lot of people out there committing Social Security fraud, which is against the law.
It also means they get Social Security benefits and Medicaid and Medicare. It's also worth noting that Cato Institute, really big on H-1Bs.
Immigrants who pay billions in taxes each year but are excluded from almost all federal benefits. After all,
Federal benefits.
Yep.
But as Austin
But I was telling
illustrated earlier, they just shift them to state benefits that come from federal dollars.
unique.
That's why states like Washington everything comes out of the general fund. And that way you can't tie any specific dollars to anything specific.
Yeah, that's what Elon Musk was saying when he was going through the stuff for the small time that he was a part of Doge.
Yeah.
Was that he was seeing all these payments being made, payments going here, going there, with no byline. There's a box that they're supposed to fill out, but it doesn't like force you to fill it out before you submit it. So it's supposed to say, what this payment is for. Just completely left blank. Thousands upon thousands over and over again of money just being sent all these different places, and no one knows what it was for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's what they love to do, is just spend the money and not mention what they did with it. How are you going to find out later? There's no way to know.
Need documentation to receive federal benefits. And guess what undocumented immigrants don't have? Hello? And of course, one of the most common anti-immigrant claims also isn't true.
They're taking your jobs and they're creating lots of problems.
They took our jobs! They took your jobs!
Oh my.
No, immigrants are not taking away jobs that Americans.
I love how they show a roofer as the example, a job that many illegal immigrants do. And also, a vast majority of Americans would gladly do.
Did you notice the goalpost shift, though?
What was it?
He started out by showing a clip of Trump saying that immigrants are taking jobs.
Yes.
The claim was they're taking jobs, just jobs, which he has already eloquently proven to us that, they're working and they're paying taxes, so they're taking jobs.
Yeah.
So now he shifts the goalposts. No immigrants are not taking away jobs that Americans want.
Very different. First of all, there is no job an American doesn't want. For the right amount of money, they'll do any job.
Don't want to work. Who wants to get up every day and just go to work? I don't think any of us do. But you have to.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and there were about 1.5 million jobs or something created over the 4 years by. It was a pitifully low number, but 100% of those jobs went to illegal immigrants. American citizens actually lost almost the same amount of jobs as were allegedly created. Why? Because immigrants took those jobs. Illegal immigrants took those jobs. Funny how that works. Not to mention, let's talk about all the immigrants that are brought in to work at Facebook and Meta, or rather, and Google, and you're telling me Americans won't work for 6 figures at a desk job? That's an absolute lie. Construction. Overwhelmingly filled with illegals. Overwhelmingly. Any man I've ever met would work construction. It's decent money.
I would do any job that I needed to in order to stay alive. If I got into such a bad spot for whatever reason,
100%,
that the only way I could make any money at all was to work at McDonald's, I'll work at McDonald's if that's what it needs.
Yeah.
To say that there isn't a job that there are a certain set of jobs that immigrants need to do, it's just demeaning. It's
and it's just
not compassionate. It's not empathetic.
It's just Democrats going back to their original pitch. Well, who's going to pick the cotton if we get rid of the immigrants? You already took our slaves.
Want. Undocumented immigrants in particular are doing some of the most dangerous, difficult, low-paying, and essential jobs in the country. Despite what certain pundits might tell you, immigration has not stopped the U.S. from enjoying record low unemployment. And as the baby boomer generation moves into retirement, young immigrants will help support Social Security by providing a thriving base of younger workers who are
Yeah, and then get screwed just like Americans are now. You know why? Because Social Security is a fucking Ponzi scheme. It is literally designed as a pyramid scheme. It constantly requires more young people entering the workforce in order to support the small amount of old people exiting the workforce at the top. And as soon as there's an equal or lesser number of people entering the workforce, the whole thing collapses. We need to get rid of Social Security, period. But what he is arguing here is not that, oh, it'll be great for everybody. They'll get benefits and you'll make sure your benefits stay secure. It's not true. It will never be enough unless we let in 50 million immigrants a year. And what he is suggesting is that we let these immigrants in to pay our Social Security so that they get nothing. That's what would actually happen. There would also be no America left for your children, but, you know, whatever.
Paying into the system. The fact that so many immigrants want to come here gives America an advantage over other countries with aging populations, like Germany and Japan. What's more, immigrants are particularly ambitious and hardworking. They're 80% more likely to start a new business than U.S.-born.
How are they starting businesses if they're undocumented? Austin, can you put that together for me? Or is he conflating legal immigrants again?
Probably.
Citizens.
And what does more likely to start a business mean? That doesn't mean 80% start a business, 80% more start a business. It just means more likely. That means that on a form somewhere they filled out, yeah, I might start a business.
Immigrant-founded businesses also impressively comprise 103 companies in last year's Fortune 500.
Legal immigrants.
And immigrants continue to add immeasurably to the richness of American culture. We should be celebrating them, not denigrating them. We should be opening legal pathways to citizenship, not closing them. It's time to speak the facts.
Nobody is closed to any pathways.
We need immigrants to keep our economy and our country vibrant and growing. They're not poisoning the blood of our nation. They're renewing and restoring it.
To keep the economy afloat, you need people. You just need people. Doesn't matter what kind of people they are. They're immigrants, illegal, legal, a citizen. You need more people. So everything you just said could also be applied to encouraging the population to have more kids.
Sure.
It just take a little longer, for those kids to grow up. So it's a little short-term pain for some long-term gain, just like your plan.
Just like it. Yeah. I just want to point out real quick how many idiots it took to put this together. It is literally just a man standing in front of a green screen, as I essentially am right now, with some slides that play. As I'm doing right here. Hang on. Boom. And I do this all myself while we're live.
For no money.
They had a director of finance and operations, digital strategy associate, director of digital strategy, executive director, production assistant, camera, research, 2 researchers, script editor, co-writer, editor, animator, producer, 2 co-directors, and a writer and presenter, which is in fact Robert Reich.
And inequality media production.
But don't worry, they could run the government more efficiently. I gotta put this back because it's cutting me off really bad. Apparently it doesn't like the camera on my left. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. I've always said that, I have no problem with legal immigration. My exclusive problem is with illegal immigration. But honestly, they're starting to push me away from even legal immigration.
Yeah, I was
because
about
I'm starting
to say,
to
after
wonder.
that video, I'm actually completely against legal immigration now.
I'm starting to wonder, what are the actual benefits? Yes, I do think that legal immigrants that come here and want to be American and adopt our values, I do think that they ultimately grow the economy. I think the numbers do bear that out. But those first two parts are very essential, and we have such destroyed the idea that if you come here as a legal immigrant, you must assimilate, that a lot aren't. And so I'm not sure those numbers are going to continue to stay that way in the future. And at the very least, we need to stop all immigration, legal or not, for a period of time. That's for sure.
Yeah. I need to get going soon, but here's the thing. Like you just said, I think immigration should just be paused, stopped for now. And then we should only be doing groups of immigration over a 3-year period, and then taking a year or so off of immigration. And it's something like that. There cannot just be a continual stream of a budget of how many immigrants we can let in every single year. It should not be happening. It should be taking in a certain amount and then stopping it for a period of time so the country can adjust to the new amount of people. I don't think unless we're literally talking about minuscule numbers of 3,000 a year are allowed in. Obviously, that probably wouldn't affect much at all, even over a continual period. But if we're going to do big batches of hundreds of thousands, a couple million people, that needs to be done over years. And then once we hit that, you cut it off for a while.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we at least need enough time to determine how many are actually in the country, since we seem to have absolutely no idea. Yeah, I agree. And I don't know, I'm gonna have to think about this tonight because, like I said, I've always been in favor of legal immigration, and I don't know if it's just my frustration that is shutting me off to it at this point, or if it is just legitimately I'm not seeing the benefit anymore. But I'm gonna have to give it some thought and really kind of explore this this idea here. But I think there's no question that what you just laid out is correct. That for the time being, at the very least, we need to get a handle on what's going on before we allow anybody else in legally. I'm not going to say illegally because we should never be letting anybody in illegally, but anyway, are you going to stay around for one more story, or are you going to take off now?
Yeah, I'm going to take off.
All right. Let them know where they can find you.
MillerTalk.substack.com, MillerTalk_pod on X and Threads, Miller Talk everywhere else, and I stream personally Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights, but I drop in with Chris every once in a while. You want to catch my streams from my perspective, then you can catch that on Twitch, TikTok, if they will keep me.
If they'll keep you.
Substack.
If we stop letting Allan on, maybe.
Twitch. Yep.
I'm kidding,
Allan's not allowed to take over anymore. He's gonna show butts.
He got so far, he is responsible for the most amount of strikes in a single show. But we've all done it at some point so far. At least we think. Sometimes it's hard to tell who did what because they're not very forthcoming about why something happened. Anyway, thanks for joining me. I'm going to keep going for a little bit, but I'll talk to you later, brother.
See ya.
Have a good one. All right, and don't forget to check out our co-host at FirstAllan2 on X as well. He keeps threatening that he's going to start up his own kind of show here. I hope he does. Which you can find American Sincerist is his name on X, and that will be the name of the show. We'll, of course, announce it here when it happens. I've got a little bit more to cover. Not a whole lot here, and then we'll get wrapped up for tonight. There's no reason to go on too long, especially since I am now doing this solo, but is this a real tweet from Donald Trump? Let me go to Truth Social. So I see this tweet here on X. Put it on screen real fast. It is supposedly a truth from Trump that says the dollar collapse is happening right now. I have not heard anything about that, so let me go to Truth real quick and see. I should see if we could stream to Truth. I've never tried to do that. Okay. 3 days ago, I'm building on top of everything else that I'm doing one of the greatest and most beautiful ballrooms anywhere in the world. More bad news for Gavin Newsom. World's largest employer, Walmart, is closing 250 stores in California, citing the $22 an hour minimum wage. California. Okay, this is unrelated. Trump accounts are jumpstarting the American dream for every child. Yes, big fan of those. Boy, he shares a lot. Elon Musk. This is why Democrats are panicking about immigration enforcement. The Electoral College baseline favors Republicans. Census math is shifting EVs to red states, and Democrats are losing voter registration. Remove illegal immigration from the equation, and the math gets brutal fast. That is true. Sorry, this is a problem with doing this solo, is when I'm, like, looking for something like this, I have to just keep talking, otherwise there's nothing happening. So, you guys can let me know in the comments if you prefer, when we're solo like this, that we just end the show and wait until there's a couple of us, or if you don't mind the solo shows, then I will keep doing them. But Austin and Allen both are several hours ahead of me because they live elsewhere in the country, obviously. And so what's late for me and what's late for them is two very different things. It's only 9 o'clock here on the West Coast, whereas he would be at, midnight now, so. Let's see. Boy, he tweets a lot. I'm only to 2 hours ago, and I've been scrolling for pages now. Here, I guess I can pull it up for you guys. Let's see. I'm pleased to nominate Colin McDonald to serve as the first ever Assistant Attorney General for National Fraud Enforcement, a new division of the Department of Justice, which I created to catch and stop fraudsters that have been stealing from American people. My administration has uncovered fraud schemes in states like Minnesota and California, where these thieves have stolen hundreds of billions of tax dollars. Colin McDonald is very smart, tough, and highly respected. America first. Federal prosecutor has successfully delivered justice in some of the most difficult and high-stakes cases the country has ever seen. Together, we will end the fraud, restore integrity to our federal programs. Congratulations, Colin. Stop the scams. Cool. Sounds like a kind of like a continuation of Doge thing going on, which is cool to see. All right. Still only up to 2 hours ago. 11 hours ago. Trump says it's too late to halt ballroom project. Surprisingly, Mayor Jacob Frey just stated that, quote, Minneapolis does not and will not enforce federal immigration law. This is after having a very good conversation with him. Could somebody in his inner sanctum please explain that this statement is a very serious violation of the law and that he is playing with fire? The S&P just hit 7,000 for the first time ever. America is back. It is the same mindset that gave pro football the new and unwatchable sissy kickoff rule that made it possible for Bill Belichick to not be elected into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Both are ridiculous and should be overturned. A massive armada is heading to Iran. It is moving quickly with great power, enthusiasm, and purpose. It is a larger fleet headed by the great aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln, then that sent to Venezuela. Like with Venezuela, it is ready, willing, and able to rapidly fulfill its mission with speed and violence if necessary. Hopefully, Iran will quickly come to the table and negotiate a fair and equitable deal. No nuclear weapons. Why are you not showing more? There we go. No nuclear weapons, one that is good for all parties. Time is running out. It is truly of the essence. As I told Iran once before, make a deal. They didn't, and there was Operation Midnight Hammer, a major destruction of Iran. The next attack will be far worse. Don't make it happen again. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Interesting. I know a lot of people in Iran are kind of upset that he's made some of the promises he has and hasn't done anything yet. Americans aren't particularly upset about it because we don't want to be involved in Iran at all. For some reason, this just jumped way down in the timeline. I'm not finding anything about the American dollar collapsing, though. It would be weird for him to truth in the first place. Seems like something he would want to avoid saying. Great honor to endorse state representative. Our trade deal is very important to America. In each of these deals, we have acted swiftly to reduce our tariffs in line with the transaction agreed to. We, of course, expect our trading partners to do the same. South Korea's legislature is not living up to its deal with the United States. Sounds like we're negotiating with South Korea. I am pleased to report that Venezuela is releasing its political prisoners at a rapid rate, which rate will be increasing over the coming short period of time. I'd like to thank the leadership of Venezuela for agreeing to this powerful humanitarian gesture. I had a very good telephone conversation with Mayor Jacob Fry of Minneapolis. Lots of progress is being made. Tom Holman will be meeting with him tomorrow in order to continue the discussion. Thank you for your attention. Okay. So yeah, still not seeing anything about the dollar. Oh, I wanted to mention too, what was the deal with Bovino being, it was reported that he was demoted, and then it was reported that he was reassigned, and then Donald Trump said, nothing's happening, he's staying in place. So there's a little bit of an interesting background to that I have heard. It was reported by Nick Shirley. So we'll get to that here in just a second after I finish looking for this tweet. I think we're back up to where I was, still nothing. So it looks like it was a fake tweet or an
These
old
may
tweet.
look like random truck boxes, but Jason, explain to us what is currently happening 10 feet away from us.
Yeah, David, this is a...
Oh, lovely. Apparently you can't watch full screen if you're not logged in. Cute. All right. That's enough looking for that. So what happened with Greg Bovino and that story that led to a lot of confusion was apparently somebody in the administration that does not answer to anybody in DHS specifically, but it was somebody in DHS reassigned him. Maybe their idea was to try and, reduce the anger in Minnesota. Maybe they were just trying to undermine the administration. We don't know. But that was not authorized. It was not allowed. So once it was stated and released to the press, it was found out about, where DHS clarified he's not being demoted. He's just being assigned elsewhere, apparently. And It's not a punishment, basically. It's just a change in personnel sort of thing. Eventually, word got to President Trump, apparently. This is all according to Nick Shirley. And once Trump found out about it, he put an end to it and said Bovino's not going anywhere. He's staying right where he is. So apparently somebody in the administration made the decision without approval, and that was that. And it was corrected after that. Whether that person has been fired or not, I don't know. But there's also a lot going on right now. Apparently, let me pull up the story here so I don't get it incorrect. Okay, where did it go? All right, hang on. Something about Fulton County, I know that. And the 2020 election situation, which is why we put it in the tagline here. Here it is. So this is, excuse me, this is trending on X. Apparently the FBI has raided the Fulton County election, wherever the elections took place. I don't know what it is specifically. Hopefully we'll find out here in a second. Biden won Georgia by 11,779 votes. This is the place where I believe you had the supposed sprinkler system leak in the middle of the night, and also the Bristol board situation. But apparently 12 hours ago, FBI agents are still digging through and extracting records from the Fulton County, Georgia Election Center. Democrats are sweating right now, yada, yada. Let's watch this video from Fox here, see if we can't get some better information.
Tonight, FBI agents are going through materials found today during a search of the Fulton County, Georgia election office. That search is said to be related to the 2020 election. Correspondent David Spunt has details tonight. Good evening, David.
Brett, good evening. FBI agents are still on site at the records warehouse for the Fulton County, Georgia Board of Elections. The matter is sealed before a court, meaning details are limited, but we can report this is related to the 2020 presidential election. Sources tell Fox News that agents retrieved documents, phones, and computers after a judge signed a warrant. President Trump has long made Georgia, and specifically Fulton County, a target of his complaints relating to the 2020 election. Shortly after that election, Trump spoke to Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, and said he needed 11,780 votes to win the state. At the time, Raffensperger said he felt pressure from Trump and denied any widespread election fraud. He continues to deny it to this day. Now, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis brought state criminal charges against then former President Trump and others in 2023 for conspiracy to overturn the election. But her prosecution, Brett, was eventually derailed completely after it was revealed she had an intimate relationship with the top prosecutor on her team, and it could have tainted the case. Late last year, a judge dismissed the case in its entirety. Now, Brett, last month, the Justice Department sued Fulton County, Georgia, seeking access to 2020 voting records after state officials allegedly failed to respond to a subpoena. Fox News has learned the head of the FBI's Atlanta field office was recently forced out in recent days, but it's unclear, Brett, if this is all related.
Well, there you have it. We didn't have this story ready before we went on air, so I wasn't really familiar with anything going on. Is there going to be any evidence remaining 6 years later? My hopes aren't high. But I think there's no question that there are unanswered questions. Where did the spike come from? Why did counting continue after all of the witnesses went home and we were told no counting was going to continue? Many other things, right? We'll see how it unfolds. I don't really have a whole lot to say on this right now. If some sort of evidence is discovered, then we will we'll share that with you, obviously. But
8 o'clock in the morning,
this is video from Fulton County where you can see them pulling ballots out from under a table.
This table,
And we never got
the black
any
one,
explanation on
was
this.
placed there by the lady with the blonde braids at about 8:22 a.m. in the morning. So she put that table there. So the same person who's staying behind now, the same person who cleared the place out under the pretense that we're going to stop counting, is the person who put the table there at 8:22 in the morning. Yeah, I saw 4 suitcases come out from underneath the table.
This is all allegedly, because I can't verify any of this, obviously.
Yeah, upper right hand, you see the gentleman in red. So he just pulled one out.
And then they start running these ballots through the counting machines, and you can see them pull the stacks out of the machine and put them back in the top. Pull them out, put them back in the top.
So now they're going to start pulling these ballots out from under this table. This table, the black one.
That's in a separate video, but it's the same. It's the same place. So anyway, we'll, as we get updates, we'll see what happens here. My hopes aren't high that anything will be found, this many years later, but we just have to wait and see, I guess. I mean, I don't know what else to say on that.
This
is an interesting little experiment, and again, it's online, so take it with a grain of salt, but I just thought it was interesting.
Can you trust people in New York City? Well, to test this, I put out a free water bottle stand in the middle of New York City with a sign that says, "Please take one," curious to see if people would buy into my honor system. And so I began observing people going up, and at the start, everybody was abiding by the rule, and even groups of 2 people were only taking 1 water bottle, which was really encouraging to see. Unfortunately, though, this didn't last too long, because after about 10 water bottles were taken, a man came up and was the first to break the trust, taking 2 water bottles despite being by himself. Otherwise, though, things continued fairly well, and New Yorkers weren't abusing the trust, but right as I thought that, another man comes up and completely betrays the social contract by ignoring the rules altogether and picking up some change I had left on the table that people had left for me as tips. And so I decided to shut it down right there, and the final stats were 20 people went up and 2 people defected, which means you can't trust about 10% of people. So now you know. Can you trust people in New York?
It's an interesting experiment. Obviously, it's not scientific by any means, but I would like to see more of these and see over the course many cities, many places, many different attempts, maybe always water, maybe not. What comes out of that? I feel like that would be worth doing. Anyway, I really don't have anything else prepared tonight, obviously, by the fact I'm just kind of scrolling, looking for things. So I'm going to get out of here. We will probably be back on tomorrow, but we will definitely be back on for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on those shows. Again, don't forget to check out my co-host at FirstAllan2 on X, and Austin, who was on with me earlier on the Miller Talk podcast, Miller Talk _pod on X, Miller Talk pod just about everywhere else. MillerTalk.substack.com is the main website. And I had a question that I wanted to leave you guys with, but I should have wrote it down and I didn't. So I think that's where we're going to be stuck for the moment. So yeah, join us Friday and Saturday for a late night show. Sunday we tend to do earlier in the day, so that people aren't having to stay up too late if they have to work on Monday morning, etc. You can search JBU.Show on Rumble, Twitter, X, and Rumble, X. I was wondering why that sounded wrong. Twitch and YouTube. Anchor.fm/JBU is where you can find the audio podcast, as well as all the links. If you forget one of the links, just go to Anchor.fm/JBU, and it will get you all the links. They're also underneath the show in the description, generally speaking. Sometimes I do forget. If you don't see them, go to a different video. And JBU_show on X is the handle. I've been trying to get JBU.Show. One of these days it'll happen. Somebody's stolen it from me in the meantime, though. Let's see. I'm pretty sure that's all we got tonight. And I got to stall for a few more seconds here because I didn't get the end music ready. All right. With that, my name is Chris, and this has been the JBU Show.
Bye. Wait, I want to be a little bit louder.
Yeah.
This is only between us.
This is just between us.
This is between us.
Perfect.